everybody. I am Carol, as he said. I am extremely excited and extremely honored to even be able to speak at today's debate. The topic being challenges facing Cameroonian youth within the community and then the solutions, okay? We only have one rule, okay? That parents and adults just be encouraged to listen, okay? You can participate in the debate, you can ask your different questions, but we really just ask that you come into this with a listening mindset, okay? Although every perspective may not be the same as yours, it is really important as a community that we could, hear out one another, see things differently, okay? So that's just all this is about.
My name is Bernadette Tanja. I'm 18 years old, just graduated from the Chicago High School for the Arts. I'm currently going to Columbia College and I'm studying the art of theater. And yeah, I'm just really happy to be here. So thank you for allowing me to voice my opinion and really to be a part of this. And I'm really honored. So thank you.
Everyone, I'm Kaveen. I am a 24-year-old senior at UIC studying bioinformatics. I'm really excited to participate in this debate because I've really never taken any part in anything that's ever happened in our community, and it's not like I have no opinions whatsoever. I do have a lot to say, and I would like to share my perspective with everyone.
Hi everyone, I'm Jefferson Fissum. I am a 23-year-old senior at Oregon Institute of Technology, and I'm currently studying renewable energy engineering. And with it, I really hope to use it to give back to Cameroon and my community. Like Aveen even said, I have not done too much in my past to help build our youthful Cameroonian community, but I truly hope to be a part of that from now on. And yeah, I look forward to how this debate goes. And thank you for having me.
To be here today, and honestly, I'm very thankful to be here because this is an opportunity of things that me and a lot of youth in the community have really thought about, and I'm just here to see how much we can really do together. Thank you.
What makes me feel Cameroonian is obviously my dad, but also like many of the lessons that he has taught me and my siblings while he was growing up. For example, like when someone gives you something, you have to receive with both hands, or like when you go to someone's house and they prepare you a meal, it's like rude to reject it. And these lessons, amongst many other, have taught me to be kind, generous, and respectful, which I've learned is the heart of the Cameroonian people. And ever since I was 1 month old, organizations such as Mkwanya or Nday have been created within the Chicago Cameroonian community. And my dad, amongst many of my aunts and uncles, have done nothing but try to keep the families within it close and connected. And I used to go to the meetings with my dad almost every week since it's been established. So you can basically say I was raised into this community. In 2006, my dad took my family and I to France, Italy, Cameroon. And during that trip, we visit Yaoundé, Douala, Bangante, Bafoussam, and Banunga, the area where my grandparents were buried. And knowing my ancestry and being able to visit the home of my extended family has been truly a blessing. It's a privilege I have that many other African-American descendants unfortunately don't have. And there are so many stories and history that I am proud of knowing, that I feel connected to my ancestors. But one of them that I do know is the one where my father became like the successor of his father. And I'm just gonna break it down real quick and then I'm just continue, but I just wanna show that, some of these stories really make me feel connected to my ancestors. So I'm just going to break this story down real quick. So my grandfather, he had 3 wives and 2 of them wanted their sons to become the successor, but unfortunately, he already chose who he wanted to be his successor. My grandmother, my dad's mom, didn't want that. but he already chose who he wanted. So after my grandfather died, they went to his ancestral grave, and they went to go ask the ancestors like who was going to be next in line or whatever. So they broke a la cola in half, and they asked the ancestors a question. And if it was if both halves were faced up or down, then the answer would be no. But if one was faced up and the other was faced down, then the answer would be yes. So they asked for my tonton Cyril, my tonton Pascal, my tonton Jean, and my tonton Bernard, but they weren't the one. So once they asked about my dad, that was the who he was the one who's going to be the successor. But that was just a little short piece of history that I'm proud of knowing. Also, being a part of this community specifically has taught me a lot, so much that I would share with my friends also to encourage them to stay close and connected to their history. I even learned that I'm originally from Baboon, but that's another story for another time. There are a lot of similarities that I see in the African and the African American community, but one that I see with this community specifically is that everyone calls each other family. Like I see that even if you don't know that person, personally, you still like call them your family, and you still be there for them no matter what. And I really love how helpful we are and how supportive we are of each other. And I really love that about this community that I'm raised in. And I'm sorry, I'm just lost of words right now. There can be a lot of difficult conflict between African and African American cultures, especially if you're African American. Like, for example, one side of your family would try to teach you more about their heritage and their way of life over the other. And I just feel like that's a really big problem. And there's a lot of prejudice and stereotypical views that I see on each side of the culture. Like, for example, the Africans think that Americans are lazy and ignorant, or Americans think that Africans are stuck up and prideful. And there came a time where I was put, like, the stereotypical views were put on me from both sides of the family. Like, I was like viewed as lazy and ignorant or stuck up and prideful. And I think that the reason why we have these conflict is only because that no one is considerate enough to try to understand or try to learn about one another. And I think that's a really big problem within these two cultures. And even though I felt like I was like in between these two cultures, and I was like, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere because I was probably like not African enough or wasn't Black enough. But still, even though me alone or people like me can see both cultures in ways that others can't, I can say that I know the struggles that Black people go through in America, as well as saying I know and I'm close to my heritage, on my African side. And I feel like in order to get past these conflicts, we need to try to understand each other, try to ask each other questions, and try to get to know each other more and better. And yeah, because everyone is so focused on the differences they have instead of embracing them and trying to love the fact that we are different, and try to not just keep ourselves separate, but try to embrace that about each other. And that's it. Thank you. That's how I feel.
Hello. I unmute myself. Hi, I will be presenting on how the Cameroonian youth are interconnected. The first thing that I want to explain to everyone is that there are two differences in the youth here in the United States, and I'm just talking about the youth from the age of, let's say, 8 to 29. I think that's Idris's age, so he counts. And the difference is that between us, there is the third culture kids, which can be abbreviated as TCKs, and the fresh off the boats, the FOBs. And the distinction is that the third culture kids are people who were raised in a culture different from their parents. These are people who lived in a different environment during a significant part of their child development years. And this distinction is very important when we're talking about the youth, because on the other hand, the fresh off the boats, the FOBs, are the new immigrants who come to a Western country. And the reason I want to highlight this is because the culture that we grew up in and the culture that we have is very different, and this affects the way that we are interconnected. And the first thing I want to talk about is whether there is an association or a platform for us. And speaking to different people in the community, FOBs and TCKs alike, there really isn't a platform that is made just for us. And there are different events that are set up by younger people who just want to have fun and party together. And these are usually organized by Africans, not really just Cameroonians. And those are events that happen in the Chicago areas. I'm not really a party person, so you won't see me there. But these events are directed and organized by a small group of people, and they decide to just invite everyone, and whoever wants to show up shows up. And there's also small group chats that we have with our friends, FOBs and TCKs alike, who just want to talk. Like, I'm part of a small group chat with Jeff and Idris here, and our siblings and other friends that we've known since we were little. And that's just because those are the people we stayed in contact with. And that is the case for FOBs. There are different group chats that stem from soccer groups that the guys play on Sundays, and those are the groups that are out there right now. There really isn't a big group that exists for us. And something that we want to ask ourselves is whether FOBs and TCKs can actively participate on a social platform. And talking to everyone, the answer is unlikely, because the culture is so different. I'm just on a social level, how can we really build those conversations if at the lowest level of just, you know, jokes and memes, we don't laugh at the same things most of the time. I could send someone something and they might not find it funny, but somebody who's grown up here knows American culture, or the kind of that we created for ourselves here in America, they would be better equipped because of that background knowledge to understand this. The next thing I want to talk about, which is was the most exciting for me, honestly, and it's dating among Cameroonian youth. And this topic, I would say, I'm 24 now. When I was in high school, when I was a teenager, this was a very taboo topic for us in my home, you know? And the reason why we don't really talk about this is because, you know, you come to America and your parents are like, you didn't come here for boys. I mean, I wasn't chasing boys, so I'm just saying. You didn't come here for boys. You came here to learn, and you came here to study, and you came here to build a life for your family and for yourself. But something that we have to understand is that the dating community for FOBs and TCKs is very different. Among FOBs, the people who are newer to the United States, who came here when they were much older in that dating age category, which I'm going to say for the sake of this point, that is people who are 18 years and older. Those people date more amongst themselves because they're culturally similar, and they seek out that familiarity, and they actively pursue those groups and form those connections with each other. While on the other hand, dating among the TCKs is less common because we have more diverse social groups. Our friends are more diverse, so even if we are going to date, there are going to be less Cameroonians in our friend group. Because at home and at school, we have these events and activities with kids from all over the world, and those relationships just form that way. You can't really run away from that. And another thing that we have to understand is that even the TCKs in the Chicago area, we don't really know each other. We know of each other, we know each other's parents, and we know that when we were 10 years old, we would play with each other at the barbecues and at the different events that the parents would hold for us. But when it came time, I would say in those formative years, when we were in our teen years, for us to actually get to know each other for real, we started saying, no, we don't want to go to those reunions. Like I did it, my brothers did it, I know you all did it, all of you out there. And the reason why we did this is just because in the American culture, at a certain point in your teen years, you don't want to hang out with your parents anymore. It's just not cool. And it's not like we didn't care or didn't want to be part of the community, but it's just where we were in our lives. And that is why we're at the level that we are now, where we don't know each other the way we should. And another thing that I realized talking to other young people is that a lot of us, myself included, we don't actively look to make these connections with other Cameroonians because we don't feel compelled to want that, to seek those relationships just because of where the other person comes from. I would rather, meet another TCK from a different country, from a different background, and kind of in the communications, you learn that you're not as different as you may think. I think that is more fulfilling for me, and it could be the same for other kids. Not saying that our other fellow Cameroonians are not cool and interesting people, but I've just never been the type of person to, join an African society at my campus because I want to be with other Africans. I would prefer to be with people who are different than me, or create my relationships outside of the fact that they're Cameroonian or non-Cameroonian. Another thing that I want to talk about is how we can improve these interactions, because we know, everyone here is aware that we don't really know each other, but it doesn't mean that we can't try, especially between the TCKs and the FOBs. And I would say with integration and with everyone here, we have to want to do this. We can't be forced into it by our parents, because that won't work. It will never work. The young people, the youth, the TCKs, and the FOBs have to say, yes, I think that we will benefit more from this than us not actually trying to do it. And I would say the main goal is to create some sort of group chat with an occasional Zoom call every once in a while. And we might want some networking events and mentorship for even the younger ones, our younger siblings who don't even know what is to come for them. And I think that as TCKs, having lived it, we would be better equipped to educate the younger ones about what is to come financially, socially, and educationally. And my solution is that we need to start small. The group chat that I'm part of, we call ourselves the Disrespectful MFs. And it's just 9 people, and we've had this group chat for about 3 years. And a couple years ago, we started meeting at the end of the year after Christmas, and we would exchange gifts in a secret Santa party. And this, if we want to start building these relationships, I feel like small, intimate settings like this is better equipped to create those relationships. So if we want to do this, we got to start small and create these events that are on this small scale first in order to build from there. We want to start with people that we know, because if you just start with people you don't know, it's a little harder to create those relationships, to get people to actually open up. We have to have some sense of trust and, some sense of intimacy, because I'm one of those people who's not open with people. I don't like parties. If you see me at a party, I'm in a corner somewhere with a little kid playing. That is just where I'm most comfortable. I thrive better in a small, intimate setting. And something that the parents could help us with is to maybe finance those events and provide us a venue. We don't really need anything else from you guys. I think that if we start with letting the youth take the reins on it and have as little involvement from the parents, we will be better off and more successful, in my opinion. The others might disagree. And if we want to involve the FOBs, the older kids, or the ones who are culturally different from us, we could we could also have those events and have the ones that we know come to the events and then bring a friend next time, so that you don't just bombard the group with unfamiliarity, because that is how you kind of break down, and then you have an inactive group chat. And if we keep this small and intimate, I think eventually, if we can find a way to build these groups, these hubs all over the United States, at some point we can decide, let's have this giant party where everybody gets to meet each other. We can have a big group Zoom meeting if possible, hoping that after the corona we can actually do things in person. But I think these are my solutions, and I'm sure we can build up on it if more people are willing to get involved. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jefferson Fissam, and tonight I'll be addressing the challenges faced by youths in the Cameroonian community. I really like this thing that we're doing, because as you can see, a lot of our topics kind of meld together in how we can better youth's involvement within the Cameroonian community, which is why I would like to address now those challenges that prevent these things from happening. After communicating with various Cameroonian youths from my community, there were a few challenges we all seem to share. The first challenge I would like to introduce is communication with parents, to be more specific. Now, one very common struggle I see youth mention when it comes to communicating with parents is that there's a cultural, for the youth, they experience a cultural shift at a developing age, while most Cameroonian parents were fully raised within their Cameroonian culture. This has caused much conflict in understanding, because with two different mindsets, it's harder to build a common ground unless both sides tries to mend into the other. And I think youths can have the better opportunity of doing it because they're raised in an African home, but inside another country. While as for parents, when their mindset's already so solidified on their views, it becomes much harder for them to take that step further in order to integrate and communicate better with the child. Now, being raised to always obey your parents in a country that idealizes freedom of speech causes many youths to speak up more when reaching a certain age. But most of the time, most of the parents are going to perceive that as rebelliousness, when in fact it's not the child trying to obliterate everything the parents are trying to raise, but it's more them trying to add their own awareness and sense of self in the communication. Rather than one person dominating the other, it's reaching that level of understanding. And one sign, after speaking to multiple youths that I've seen, one similarity I've seen is that a sign of maturity by the youth has proven to help reach a level of respect and understanding. But if this barrier could be breached by at a younger age, it will only help to benefit the growth of the child. If we're able to have the parent and the African American youth growing in this diverse culture be able to understand each other at that point, I think that the Cameroonian youth that we're going to be raising will be that much stronger and be more understanding of both of their values. Now, the next challenge I want to mention is youth finding difficulty communicating with other Cameroonian youths. Many find it easy to communicate with other Cameroonian youth due to similarities and bring-ups, like Kaveen mentioned, and it's very easy to get along with those that share a similar background. And one good example were those weekly meetings the parents had when we're growing up that gave many of us an opportunity to interact and get to know each other as Cameroonians. As many of us grew older though, not having to go to those meetings because we felt forced ended up creating a distance amongst the youth community because we no longer had that chance to interact, to bond. Now, this brings me up to my next challenge, being the social events. These meetings have proved to be a great opportunity for youths to engage. but most felt a little judged by the parents at these events. Not feeling relaxed to play around other kids as a kid kind of creates a barrier from that fluid relationship to occur. And going to these meetings, it always felt like before you go, you have this impression from your parents that do not embarrass me. And when you're going to a situation like that, as a child especially, you're not gonna, in your mind, you're not trying to have fun. You're trying to look your best, do your best. And it is good to have that kind of character. But then when we're trying to create bond and family within a community, those kind of things can sometimes prevent from that happening. And I would say a lack of frequent events that are designed to be a fun environment for youth Cameroonians to interact has had a significant impact on the lack of Cameroonian youth community development. And this also ties to the next challenge I would like to bring up, being that some youth feel there is a weak sense of unity in their community. And I will say we'll mostly agree that when we look at the parents, we do see that strong connection with the multiple events that they try to do for them to come together. But these events were not centered towards the youth, which took away from an interest for the youth to go. They no longer felt like there's a reason for me going, because it's not about us just having fun. It becomes parents handling their business. So most youths will also agree that there's an unspoken competition between the youths brought on by the parents, where you as a child they don't tell us to be better than the other, but it's more of trying to impress, I would say, where then we're forced to feel that we're not supposed to be necessarily friends with the kid next to us, but we're trying to better them in some way. Say, I'm getting a better GPA, or, all these things. And when you add competition to something like this, you're not building family, you're building a network of adversaries. And I don't think that's what we want in the youthful community. And that, plus the lack of frequent social events that are simply organized for the community to socialize, have just added on to that barrier. Next, I also want to mention that a good example that helped the community come together were things like those summer barbecues would have, that were simply designed for everybody to socialize, interact, get to know each other, not just parents or not just for youth, but for both sides. This built the community, as well as it built relation between the parents and the youths together. And I think that is one of the things that we're lacking most. Opportunities that are not just centered towards parents or youth, but that also are about engaging as a whole, because we're a family. And a family isn't just built of parents or the child, it's built of both together. And I think that is what we want to do as a community. Now, the last challenge I want to bring up is youth asking or even getting support from the community. Now, there have been plenty of great examples of youth getting support from our community in events such as graduations, when they all come to support the youth that's about to embark on a new journey, or even when it's a funeral, when we're all coming together to say goodbye to somebody that we all loved and cherished among our community. And that is when I have witnessed the strongest sense of that unity. Now, somebody doesn't need to graduate or die for that to happen, but then just having events that are simply made for us to come together is what I think will break a lot of these challenges. Now, I also spoke to youth from different African communities, and I did it in order to gain perspective. A similarity in the challenges that they faced in their own communities is the cultural difference of being raised in America in an African home, conflicting with your parents' views. We do differ, however, in our community. Like I've said, we have had examples of times when we have come together in order to build our community, in order to stay united. And that is one thing I've seen that we're lacking from other African brothers that I've spoken to. Now, those cover the main challenges that I wanted to discuss. And next up, my brother Idris is going to further discuss the solutions to these difficult challenges. Thank you for listening.
know me, my name is Idris Yato. Um, I like what we are doing here a lot, and this is awesome. This is my first time being a panelist on this integration thing that we want to really have a better relationship within, not just within our family or within our parents, but within our community as a whole, so that we can, better progress and better take advantage of the things, of all the opportunities that are here in the United States. So my child, my topic for this discussion is pretty much finding the solutions to most of the challenges that we face within the community. And I'm just gonna go right. I'm just gonna jump right into it. Just to do a little comparison observation about what I've seen for the majority of time being in the community for so long. Um, on the parents, I've noticed a lot on as far Jeff touched on communication, and I think that's the biggest thing that has been, I think, logically in.
Please, Idris, would you mind speaking a little bit louder so that everybody can hear you?
My apologies. My apologies. So I was saying logical reason approach based on experience, not scientific facts. And what I really mean by this is a lot of times we go through things and when you hear your parents kind of pressing on you from like a certain perspective or certain things, it always comes from a oh, uh, these people, this family is doing this as such, so I think that's the right way to follow. This kid did it this way, so I think that's the right way to follow. Whereas, whereas I, whereas I think we should focus on individuality because everything, everything is not the same within every construct. And also, I sensed a lack of sufficient trust and respect in youth. Um, Also, a lot of parents just don't trust. A lot of parents don't want kids to like really express themselves or maybe listen to you. Or,
Okay, not to cut you off or anything, but it's extremely hard to hear you. So I've noticed that there are a few people on the call who are not muted. So if you could go ahead and mute yourself, and then it's just if you could speak closer to your microphone because it sounds really muffled.
my apologies, guys. I don't know why that's is
I
the
feel like as soon as everyone mutes themselves, though, it'll be easier. So there are a few. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 phones still like unmuted. If you could go ahead and mute yourself, I wish I was host. I will go ahead and do it, but I can't. But
We're
I'll give you.
working on it, Carol. We're working on it. Keep going.
I think I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I think that also controlling the noise around you, because I feel like when there's noise around you and you try to say something, that noise dominates your voice. So if you can also check that there's not too much noise around you, that might help a little bit.
for me. It's fine. I don't have much around me.
Okay, good.
So
All right,
I'm good. Good to go.
yeah, go ahead.
Making sure. Like I was saying, there's a lack of sufficient trust and respect in youth, and what I was trying to say in that regard is just that the parents needs to just sometimes they need to understand the kids, and everything kind of goes back to communication. It's a matter of you taking a step back and being able to push the kid in front and being like, okay, you know what, you got this, because a lot of times kids are looking for acknowledgement from the parents and all that, but when you just keep shutting them down and don't listen to them, they don't get the type of they don't get the confidence that you really want them to have to maybe lead a lead in whatever way you would like them to be. Um, Also, I see a lot of insufficient freedom of expression as well as exploration for one's capabilities and opportunities. And what that one really has to do is more in just being able to explore yourself, just being able to like do more than just what's okay. Because in a lot of home, it's a lot of restrictions as to what the kids can really do, and that for the most part usually just keeps kids from really exploring what they are capable of doing or what other opportunities are out there for them. And finally, for on the minus on that side is just silencing the kid. I mean, I think we all know what that means. It's just letting the kids really like not letting kids really like express themselves. Like Jeff was saying earlier, it's like you could you could be talking about a certain topic with the kid, and the kid wants to maybe say something, and the parents for the most part just like, okay, you need to shut up because you don't know anything, you're just a kid, you need to let me speak, you need to let me do this or that. Whereas the kids just really, we are different as humans. No, even if you're my father or my mother, it's like our perceptions are not always the same. And so the kids just wants to like maybe put his perception out there in the middle. It's not that he's saying that whatever you're saying is wrong. It's just another perspective on the table, and it's really up to the parents to really like take all perceptions with all the experience that they have and kind of guide kids the right way. Uh, but that's not to say that the parents are always just kind of doing something wrong or anything like those. Those are just a couple of points that I really wanted to touch on. Uh, I also just want to quickly mention that we appreciate our parents a lot in especially as far as like setting high expectation on you academically. And the reason why I wanted to literally point that out is because going through going being in the US for so long and going through being around a lot of other kids from high school to college and what the case may be. I, from my personal observation, I've noticed that us from not just in the Cameroonian community, but like African community, like our our generation are more likely to finish their degree than a lot of kids from different other communities. And also, I wanted to shout out our parents for really enforcing the African values on youth, because that goes a long way, and that goes a long way, especially mentally, because a lot of kids out here that are not that strong mentally, and I think being very cultural and having so many perception that we really come from kind of help us. Uh, I would say out on the street, but also just in the classrooms or in our endeavor. Next slide, please. Uh, so, so like I was saying on certain on most of those points that I kind of pointed back on the previous slides, I would just advise for like a lot of parents to just have a lot more trust, understand that respect. It kind of goes both ways, and nurture youth as like future leaders, because I'm sure you don't. I'm sure most parents are not trying to educate their kids to go and do a 9 to 5 forever and just like working under someone. And so, in educating the kids or whatever goes on within every family household, I on this point I kind of just want parents to kind of understand that the kid standing in front of them is a future leader and really put everything in such way.
Tu peux brouillard, s'il te plaît.
Francesca, stop it. And also, I wanted parents to understand that it is okay for them to be wrong, especially even from the kids, because everybody make mistakes, and I'm sure you guys understand that mistakes is the best teacher out there. And so sometimes just for our parents to admit that they just made a mistake here, or maybe even just apologizing, it's not about an apology, but it's about your reaction to certain things that you do wrong or that goes wrong. And that's something that kids really like kind of pay attention to a lot, because they 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 have their own perception of things, and whenever they notice that something is wrong, and the parent just sit up there and tell them that, oh, not to, the parent tries to like either play it off, or maybe be yelling at them to that they are not right, or whatever the case may be. It only gets to the kid, and they don't get the best lesson in whatever the case may be. So in that regards, I kind of just want the parents to kind of like understand that it's totally cool to be around in front of kids, and I actually encourage it, because that everybody is wrong, and the way that you react to your mistakes is how that kid is going to react to whatever they do wrong. One of the and also my next the next point that I want to make has to do with talents, and this is a major topic in a lot of families. Um, I think I think parents have to find both parents and the kids have to find ways that really benefit them in whatever uh, it's not just whatever sports or whatever talent they are actively doing. It's about what they can actually discover, and I feel like African parents don't really invest into that with their kids, and a lot of kids actually coming from where we come from, being black and everything. You guys know we have so much talent, and if we don't try and discover what these kids are really about, it's not always about just going to school and getting straight A's. These talents are so important to a lot of kids, and from speaking to a lot of people, just me on my own reality, we have all gone through a lot of cases where the kids are just doing something on the side and not bringing it up front, because they know that the parent just don't want them to do it, or just is not going to accept any of it within the family. You just want them to go to school and have straight A's. That's cool, but also have to understand that talent has a place in within everywhere. Uh, okay, next slide, please. Okay, going back now, going back to the youth. As far as my observation within the youth, I one of the best thing that I've seen within my age group and those that come before me, everybody that I've really been around is assimilating to the American culture. For the most part, I think a lot of parents usually are very scared that the kids are going to turn into something else, maybe forget their culture, forget this or that. But just from my observation, I I've only seen the youth taking a huge advantage as far as like maybe adapting to the culture, to the American culture. Uh, Also, I think that our youth are a lot more conscious and we're aware of world issues and matters. Um, and that I have to give props to a lot of parents, because, like I was saying earlier, they are very good at enforcing their kids to take school very seriously. And so, as a result, we all come out, for a lot of people that I talk to, especially compared to other people from other communities or whatnot. A lot of youth around us are usually very self-aware and conscious about everything going on around the world. Um, the 2 points that I really want to touch on as far as what the youth really needs to work on is maybe is networking with other youth, which Jeff touched on that a lot, and also reaching out and finding resources for assistance because I feel like a lot of them are just I don't know if they are just scared or whatever the case may be. But I mean it's understanding also because a lot of kids come here if the parents don't push them out there and put them in front of other Cameroonians or people in within the from where they come from, it's gonna be hard for the kids to like jump into a whole different group from a whole different culture that grew up completely different from them and being able to express themselves fully to maybe just seek out some advice or some help or whatever the case may be for what they really need. Next slide, please. Okay, so for the youth, one of the things that I think is very important for them is we came here to be successful. So to reach that, you gotta have your priorities straight. So keeping your priorities in mind in order to be successful is very important. So, and also balance your surroundings so that they are in line with your goals. Uh, and that goes with saying maybe your friends, especially your friends. It's not about having 100 friends. It's not about having 200. It's about having the couple of people next to you that are in line with what you want to be tomorrow. And and you shouldn't really have a lot of friends to begin with because being able to rely on people means that they will rely also on you and you don't want to be all over the place. So have a consistent communication with both parents and fellow youth members while being mindful of the differences in cultural expectations. But this touches more on the communication between the parents and other youth, even those within the community, is that you have to keep in mind that everybody grew up. You got to keep in mind that not everybody grew up in the same lines as you. Like if you grew up in Cameroon, like you could maybe like assume that some people are grew up just with the same experiences as you, but coming in the US and to pursue your own
You muted, Idris.
Yeah, there's an issue with your audio.
okay, sorry,
Yeah, we got you.
I don't know how that happened, my apologies. So I was just saying to keep in mind, like for our youth, like you just gotta keep in mind that both, first of all, your parents, they for sure grew up differently than you because a lot of them grew up back home and then came here later on. And you, on the other hand, even though you might have grown up maybe a couple of years back home, you're going through different things that they have really experienced, like going to school here or doing sports here or being out there with the kids your age, that sort of stuff. They didn't go through that with you. So you got to keep that in mind when you want to have a consistent and good communication with the parents and the people within the community. um and whenever having those conversations with them, you need to have an objective and well thought out plan that will enhance a better relationship with your parents. Can see the whole thing. um that just goes back to to being in line with your goals. You need to have your priorities straight and then you need to have goals. And whenever you're not gonna get everything. Like you're not gonna follow every path that opens up in life. So you gotta be, you gotta have you gotta have an objective and a thought out plan whenever you want to speak to your parents about whether it be some kind of talent that you really want to pursue or whatever the case may be. Next slide, please. Uh, these are just my observations from going to high school and universities here. Uh, I wanted to include this slide because most of not most of us, we all come here for opportunities and for better opportunities, and we got to be successful in general. So this slide honestly it covers academics because I feel that a lot of people do go to school, but they don't know what they're looking for. They don't know what they're working on, or what the case may be. So I put down this slide just so that you guys can look at it and kind of just see from my perspective how you can easily go through the school system here. And in which in high school I mentioned that you gotta maintain a GPA of at least 3.5 and above, and that's if you want to get into a good university, obviously. Apply to scholarship and top universities, participate in activities to open your horizons. On that point, I just wanted to touch that you shouldn't be don't sit in your corner just waiting for something to happen. Reach out to people, ask for help. Don't nobody bite. Just reach out to you find your resources from school or within the communities, which these resources are probably going to open up a lot more starting after this whole discussion, because we got to create a lot more resources within the community where anyone coming from the time anyone comes in the US to maybe searching for opportunities out there can really just come to, so that they can get some kind of assistance. My last slide is more on association, and this is more about la reunion that all the parents for the most part usually go to. um I I think these associations got to create more resources to enable the community to explore opportunities within the U.S. Um, and this has to do with creating some like an orientation. Uh, Create something like an orientation where people like postgraduate can probably even go to like maybe seek out some financial advice, to seek for some like financial advice, seek out for some like where to get a good recruiter, or maybe get their how can they like where should they probably go for maybe get their resume checked up, so they can actually look for opportunities here and there. So just creating more resources for the youth would be really nice, so that these associations can have a much wider purpose. Also, uh, I think that these associations gotta reinforce strategically the notion or purpose of finance within the association, and this is something that I think a lot of parents probably already like maybe thought of, or they probably already thought of this, but they just haven't really like found a way to like maybe diverge away from the way that things really are right now. Because I think the whole purpose of maybe collecting money and then just someone whenever they need money they can just come and grab some. I think that purpose is a little bit outdated because of where we are as far as the US, or where we are in time. It's a lot of ways out there to maybe manage all these finances that be coming in on a weekly basis, such that maybe there could be some sort of a way to like maybe invest the money, or maybe open up a source that can maybe also help the youth, that you can maybe like invest within the youth, uh, or certain groups to take advantage and maybe open up businesses, or just creating different ways of maybe doing your finances. Next slide, please. Okay, and Les, I just put in my contact information out there. Um, that's it for my presentation, guys. I have a whole lot of ideas, but if you guys have questions on some stuff, just you can just ask me, and I'll elaborate a lot more on them.